What do you think rupture means? No, sorry, you're Bloomberg. You can't just read into my answer.
Becomes more than an irritant. Look,
you know what's an irritant?
Yeah. Carney is rattled today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got a press conference where Mark Carney noticeably irritated. He talks over reporters. He snaps at numerous reporters. He gets asked very good questions. I'm shocked. This is probably the best press conference set of questions I've ever heard grilling Carney. We got a bunch of other stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we've got Holly Doan, Blacklock's reporter, posting this. Cable TV subscribers face another rate hike, second in 2 weeks, as the CRT increases mandatory monthly fees to rescue money-losing French language channel, TV5 Monde. Yeah, no thanks to the cable TV. Haven't had that in 10, 15 years. We got Melissa posting this. We've got a first of its kind here coming from Toronto Police announcing arrests made in Project Lighthouse, first of its kind SMS blast investigation in Canada. What is this? This is some draconian stuff. SMS tech originated from China, is a device that mimics a legitimate cell tower and causes nearby mobile phones to connect to it instead of a real network. As she points out, our new partner. They're trying to steal our information. They want access to everything. This is so draconian. You can see the location here, Markham. Jumping over to Mark Carney's press conference here. He's announcing more Build Canada Homes nonsense. And first he puts his foot in his mouth and then he snaps at a reporter.
Commitment to build more homes faster for the people of Ottawa. Today, we're proud to announce that Build Canada Homes has approved 8 new housing projects that will build more than 1,100 new rental homes in the city of Ottawa, already exceeding our original target by 10%. Construction right here on Geyser Place will begin later this year. And this project, I covered them both, this Geyser. You say geezer, I say geyser. Tomato. This project will build more than, well, it says 100 new rental units. Actually, I think, Stefan, it's closer to 180.
118.
118.
118. Wow. These guys bringing in thousands of people every day, but there's 118 new units on the way, guys. In a couple of years, those 118 units will be ready. Let's just go back to him talking about fast-tracking homes in Canada. We don't need the government to fast-track homes. They just need to, as Poilievre would say, get out of the way. Let the private sector build houses. Get out of the way. Get rid of the red tape. There shouldn't be red tape. It should be very minimal and very quick to get a permit to build a house. So they start the questions here, and I mostly just want to show the question being asked versus the answer because Carney just word salads. But look how uncomfortable. I don't think I've ever seen him this uncomfortable being asked a question.
I'm Marco Vigliotti, iPolitics. I want to ask about the status of the trade talks because I'm admittedly a bit confused. The Americans, when I talk to them, they don't really kind of understand where this talk of an entry fee is coming from, saying we've been very, very clear with the Canadians what our trade irritants are. Yep. You had Howard Lutnick, you had Jameson Greer yesterday doubling down that dairy and alcohol in particular were huge barriers to restarting trade talks. And Jameson Greer even threatened retaliatory actions if you don't convince your provincial colleagues to remove some of those bans on U.S. liquor. So I got to ask.
So before he gets to that, looking at his body language, he legitimately, I think, had something in his eye when he started asking the question because he was wiping it. But you can see him just leaning back and forth. He's looking over to the side. He keeps trying to look away from the reporter because he doesn't like this question. And CBC pushed out this narrative. We saw Brian Lilley basically debunk this, that there isn't an entry fee, that Carney broke the Kuzma agreement. Americans want the stumbling juice back on the table as a sign of good faith for breaking the agreement last year. As he asks a question here, look at Carney's body language.
U.S. liquor. So I got to ask, considering yesterday you said, I'm not backing down. We're not going to make any concessions to get Americans to come to the table. What's the game plan here? Or what are you prepared to do to get Americans at the table here? Or are you comfortable with this kind of awkward status quo that we have right now?
Look,
you see, he wanted to answer it before he even finished asking the question. His little head bob with the smile thing, get on with asking the question. He's feeling so uncomfortable. He just wants to get this over with. And you'll see here, he just word salads.
I don't think that was an exact quote of what I said yesterday. So I'm not going to associate myself with the way you framed it. There are a series of trade issues between the countries. Most of the issues have been raised by the United States, either in terms of things they want to see changed in Canada. There are a series of tariff measures the United States has put in place which are in violation of the existing agreement. The tariffs on steel, the tariffs on aluminum, the tariffs on automobiles, the tariffs on forest products. Those are not consistent with the existing agreement.
Carney's statements here are more wrong than right. So the situation is complicated, but basically Donald Trump put on IEPA tariffs, the street fennel tariffs. Those got wiped out by the Supreme Court. But he also put on sectoral tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, etc., citing national security. Now, in the Kuzma agreement, he's allowed to do that for national security reasons. Now his critics will argue that that wasn't national security. He's saying that dirty steel is being flooded in from China, then goes through Canada and Mexico into America, and that's why they put those on for national security reasons. Now, recently what Trump has done is he's brought in these new tariffs. He changed the structure, so instead of just tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, he's tariffing products that have metal. And if the products have less than 15%, then they don't get a tariff. But if they have more than 15%, the entire value of the good gets tariffed. And that's why the tool and die industry in Canada is at risk. Now, if you used an example like a rice cooker, before that product would have been exempt in Canada. But now Trump has changed this that every country has these same sweeping tariffs on products, including Canada. So if a rice cooker was made in Canada and then sold to America, there'd be no tariffs. But today, now the entire value of the rice cooker, if it has more than 15% metal, gets a 25% tariff on it. So if you have a tool and die mold that, say, costs $500,000, it now gets a 25% tariff. Canadian companies cannot afford a $125,000 tariff, which is what that would be, 25% on $500,000. They can't eat that cost. So this will destroy numerous industries in Canada. That's why it's imperative that Carney actually get a deal and stop jerking us around here with his little net zero games that he's playing. So going back to his statements here, calling out Trump for violating the agreement, sure, you could argue that putting those tariffs on steel, aluminum, whatever, are not national security. America's arguing it is because all of these products are coming over from China. But in reality, Carney did violate the Kuzma agreement by putting tariffs on sports products and foods and whatever else they were sending down to America. They put a tariff on there which violated the Kuzma agreement, where on Trump's side, it could be argued. But either way, it doesn't matter. We need to get a deal with America or our country is going to fall apart.
Forward to sitting down, we have an exchange around these issues. I'll use their term, they often use trade irritants, a series of measures, which would include actions that have been taken in response to the American measures, such as the provincial actions. These are provincial actions with respect to alcohol on the shelves. I mean, you got to remember, the client here are the provincial liquor authorities. They make the decisions what they put on their shelves.
This guy's so weak. He's just going to blame the provinces now instead of just taking the bull by the horns here and commanding leadership. He could make a call to all the premiers today and say, hey, put the stumbling juice back on the shelves. We need to get a deal with America. This is the best way of doing it. We'll smooth things over. We'll go make a deal. He could do that today. He doesn't want to because he's got a net zero agenda to get rich off of. Just a deplorable situation.
So our work is as follows, is to be prepared on all of the issues, to provide our perspective and address, to negotiate.
Oh, that's right. So we're going to be prepared and provide our perspective. Well, what is this?
Negotiate in the round on all of these issues. This is a review process that's baked into the existing framework.
So he just keeps going on to word salad. We're going to jump ahead here.
It's a negotiation. These things have their own rhythm, and they also have what's happening above the surface and what's happening below the surface. And, we'll see in the fullness of time.
Follow? Yeah, on that same vein, I guess my confusion stems from the fact that the Americans are saying, not really a negotiation. We're laying out what we need to see Canada do, and Canada's not meeting us
That's
there.
a negotiation. That's a position. Yana, there's two parties in a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
One, we're not sitting here taking notes, okay, and taking instruction from the United States. Understanding their position.
He's getting pissed off here. He doesn't like that basically he got called out that he's not negotiating. This is pretty crazy. And you saw the little cheeky smile there?
To do, and Canada's not meeting us
That's
there.
Look at this. This guy gets the duper's delight every time. He knows he's not negotiating. He likes it. That looks like a smile to me right there.
This is a government that can do many things at one time. Today, we set up Build Canada Homes. It literally was set up in September. The legislation...
Okay, yeah. This guy set up a phony baloney photo op the last time he was talking about Build Canada Homes. And now he's talking about the bureaucracy. We don't need Build Canada Homes. We just need builders to be able to afford lumber and land to build houses.
We're glad that we have a majority now. We can move that forward more rapidly. We're already in a position.
Yeah, so he's at a position now with this majority that things better start changing quick or it's all his fault. He can't blame the opposition anymore. You got to wonder if they're running the paper shredders in overtime. Are we going to be seeing those SDTC documents anytime soon?
We're 10,000 plus home, catalyzed by Build Canada Homes.
That's right. They're catalyzing the houses. So next up, he gets asked the million-dollar question. These changes that Trump just put in that apply to products now that have metal in them, and now it'll be the tariff on the full value of the product. These companies can't eat the cost of this, and shipping it to America, nobody's going to buy it if it's 25% more expensive, especially on huge purchases like tool and die, etc. This is a critical situation where it's not years down the road, it's in the weeks, the months down the road that these jobs will be lost, these companies will go bankrupt. What is Carney going to do?
With regards to the steel tariffs in particular, and I want to link this to the video you posted on the weekend about forward guidance and not sugarcoating it for Canadians. There are people in the steel industry now, for example, who are looking at the way they've changed the application of the steel tariff and are warning that thousands of jobs are going to be lost imminently, like not down the road, like within weeks. And so I wonder if you could speak to those Canadians and what is your assessment of how bad it is about to get out there?
I would make it, if I may, distinction between the industry, the core industry in steel, where a series of measures have been taken, raising our tariffs and so-called tariff rate quotas to third country steel into Canada, introducing a Buy Canadian policy, providing strategic response, hundreds of millions of dollars of support into the industry and into workers, which is helping to shift some of our largest steel manufacturers into profitability and into new markets. I want to distinguish between that, where there's more to be done. And look, it would be better for the United States. We are resolute about this. Better for the United States and better for Canada to have a unified steel market that we had before. It would make the U.S. more competitive versus China. It would provide more markets for American steel. That would do a number of things as well. Ultimately, that's part of the negotiation. Where the pressure is increasing, and what we're looking at right now, is the change in American, this term derivatives, where it's downstream users of steel, and then a tariff, a steel-like tariff, or effectively a steel tariff being applied to the whole product, and the jump in the tariff because of that. And that is a new development that the Americans are applying globally. Remember that all the things in steel, aluminum particularly, America's applying to everybody.
He's trying to deflect this and say, well, this is a global problem, but he's not addressing that Canada trades more with America than basically anyone else. We're right next to them, so this hurts us the most. You could throw Mexico in there too.
America's applying to everybody. We happen to have a trade agreement or existing trade agreement, which is what they're doing is inconsistent.
He didn't answer the question. He's not doing anything. He's just saying, well, it's a global problem. So if you're in one of these industries, look for a new job, look for a new industry, because this guy's destroying industries. He's not even trying to negotiate. He hasn't been at the table in 5 months. That goes to show you how much he cares about your jobs out there. If you're in tool and die, anything that has to do with metal in our country, basically.
Hi, Jordan Gowling, National Post. The MOU deadline is 3 weeks past for deals on industrial carbon pricing, Pathways Project. Is the source of the delay disagreement on industrial carbon pricing?
No, source of delay is good hard work between. The reality is there's good work, regular conversations between the governments, the federal government and the government of Alberta. We're making progress on a number of things. These are fundamental structural changes we're making together, and I would say we're making good progress. It's not quite there yet, but you'll be amongst first to know when it is.
You'll notice when she mentioned Pathways Project, his cheeky little
Pathways Project is the source.
Pathways Project, boy, he likes the sound of that. That's the sound of money to Mark Carney. He couldn't help himself. The duper's delight.
Premier Smith has said the level should be at a level that the industry can afford. The oil and gas sector has been clear that they need to remain competitive given the global context. So are you willing to compromise?
Global context for oil and gas is actually quite attractive, I might add. If you can produce oil and ship it, it's quite attractive, yes.
So he just interrupted her. She didn't even finish asking the question. Price of oil, and Canada's at the bottom. Western Canadian Select. We're selling our oil for $72.70, and every other exporter is selling it for more. 40s, $134. Dated Brent, 116. Oman, 101. Brent, $99. Gulf of Mexico, Mars, $98. Russia's selling theirs for $90. Colorado Southeastern, $78. Think of this. If we got rid of the industrial carbon carbon tax, we would be making a lot more money on this $72. I don't know what the percentage is, but say it's 10, 15, 20%, whatever it ends up being. Maybe it's only 5%. If you're adding another 5% on this, that's billions of dollars every year. And then these companies would pay billions of dollars more to the Canadian government in taxes every year. You can't have a circus without a Carney.
But are you willing to compromise on $130
We're willing to
a ton, or do you?
We're going to get to the $130 effective price is part of the MOU, and we're working in terms of the way to that the market, and in the end, and I'll finish on this because others, it's how the market works in Alberta. And one of the points I would underscore, which is not well understood, is that the effective carbon price in this country is actually quite low relative to the headline price, in the $20 to $30 in most Canadian markets. And that's something.
Oh, so the carbon price is too low in our country, and we're not smart enough to understand it because he came up with the whole net zero agenda, so he knows it best. I got to hand it to these reporters today. They're asking good questions. Listen to this.
Greg Quinn, Market News. Prime Minister, the Premier of New Brunswick is about to erect tolls on the Trans-Canada Highway near the Nova Scotia border. And when she's pushed about this, she says, well, a lot of other provinces are doing it, so why can't I? I mean, it's a very physical manifestation of an interprovincial trade barrier. The IMF says these amount to a tariff. Why should Canadians be asking the U.S. for a full and comprehensive free trade deal when we don't have one with ourselves?
Well,
So before he answers, his body language here is telling me he doesn't even know about this. At the very least, he's very uncomfortable with it. So look at his body language. He's looking down. You'll see him lean to the left here. He's putting his hands down. He's kind of shaking his foot. He's picking at his nose there. He's looking around, sniffing. You can see he's kind of lifting himself up on his feet. He doesn't like this question. I don't think he actually knows the answer to it.
Well, I would flip it around. There's lots of reasons that it's in the interests of Canada and the United States to have free and open trade. That's one reason why we still have 85% of our trade with the United States is tariff-free. We have removed all federal barriers by legislation for that.
So you can see he's not answering the question because he doesn't know the answer.
We have a series of tables, if you will, or negotiations at the provincial level for the provinces to do.
He doesn't know the answer. This press conference is an absolute disaster. There's a couple more questions here that were in French, and he keeps answering the questions before the reporter can finish asking them. Listen to this.
Next question?
Wait.
Hi, Graham Richardson,
Hi.
CTV, Prime Minister. Just back to the bourbon ban. Last time I checked...
Was he? Wait, yeah, go ahead.
Well, last time I checked, Mr. Ford has a fair amount of control over the LCBO, even though I appreciate it's independent. But you told him to cool it on the ad that caused a lot of trouble. What if this alcohol thing...
And how did that work? Did he listen?
Yeah. But what if this alcohol
I was
thing...
right, by the way.
Well, what if this alcohol thing becomes more than an irritant? Look,
you know what's an irritant? 50% tariff on steel, 50% tariff on aluminum, 25% tariff on automobiles, all the tariffs on forest products. Those are more than irritants. Those are violations of our trade deal. Okay? The client of American producers, which ultimately there's a board for the LCBO, for the SAQ, for the Manitoba. There's not just one, huh? They make those decisions. And they make those decisions in a judgment. Yes, there's different governance structures. And yeah, surprise, surprise, the Premier of Ontario is influential with the LCBO. Okay.
Carney's pissed off here. I mean, he snaps numerous times. You're going to see another time he snaps here at a reporter. And this here at the start, what is this? When he talks about the stumbling juice and he starts laughing?
What if this alcohol thing...
And how did that work? Did he listen?
Yeah. But what if this alcohol...
He can laugh all he wants about the situation. It's not funny to Canadians who lost their jobs, though.
That's right. By the way.
Well, what if this...
It's all a joke to him. He doesn't understand what a regular Canadian life is like in our country right now.
This long period of integration, deeper integration between Canada and the United States is over? That nostalgia isn't a strategy? That hope isn't a strategy? We're not going to go back to exactly the way things were. The U.S. has changed.
Donald Trump won't be president in just under 3 years. And our relationship will mend and heal after Trump leaves and Carney leaves. Of course, he uses this opportunity to fearmonger as usual. Listen to this follow-up here. I mean, this is crazy.
Just and quickly, there seem to be two stories. The Americans are quite specific publicly, and you've just been very specific publicly. But I keep hearing from the trade minister and somewhat from you the tone that this is all part of a negotiation, and underscoring that, it seems to suggest that it's normal, that this back and forth, these kind of positions publicly and behind closed doors, it's a normal negotiation. I'm assuming, like most Canadians don't see any of this as normal.
Look, what do you think rupture means? Rupture means that things aren't normal. Nostalgia is not a strategy. Things have changed. Things have changed fundamentally. We get that.
You notice when the reporter was bringing this up, his corner of his mouth here, it just starts to lift. You can see he just almost wants to smile. And as soon as he says rupture.
What do you think rupture means?
Why would you smile when you say rupture when we have this massive problem with our country right now? Canadians are losing jobs. Why is that something to smile about?
We get up in the morning. What do we think about when we get up in the morning? We think about affordability for Canadians, how we can make life more affordable, and how we can build this country strong.
Okay, we're not going to listen to any more of this nonsense. This one statement here sums it up.
And how we diversify our partnerships elsewhere. We don't get up first thing in the morning. I do not get up first thing in the morning and think about the United States. Okay? I think about Canadians.
If he truly thought about Canadians, then he would be thinking about the United States because we are so integrated with them. 78% of our trade is with the United States. And I believe now it's down to 74% with all his Build Canada Strong over the past year. This should be his top focus. He should be thinking about the United States every single morning and how to get a deal. This just tells you everything that's going through his mind. It's all about net zero. So next up, we got a reporter from Bloomberg, and Carney snaps at her after he's finished answering the question, which is a little bizarre.
Bloomberg News. I just want to follow up on carbon pricing and the pushback from the oil and gas sector on how it's making them, as they say, less competitive globally. I'm wondering, on the $130 per ton price, what's the timeline you're looking at of reaching that effective price, and is it 2030?
On the second part of your question, that's obviously it's part of the discussion. Everything is connected within the discussions with Alberta, and the key is to, at its base, from our perspectives, to have an effective functioning carbon market. With respect to the competitiveness of our oil and gas sector, our oil production is at a record high. There's a series of measures that can further expand that.
The reason it's at a record high is because TMX finally got completed and we're shipping some oil out to the West Coast, but we should be doing more of this.
If you map in on a per barrel basis, what's the biggest determinant of, one of the biggest determinants, maybe put it this way, of the profitability, competitiveness of the oil and gas sector is going to be our ability to diversify our markets away from the United States.
Yeah, and then why aren't we building refineries right now and more pipelines? So listen to this. This is her follow-up, and this gets pretty snippy here.
Okay, I want to take that as you saying that you don't have a timeline or a date.
I wouldn't say that, but I didn't say that.
So you're not committing to one.
No, you're Bloomberg. You can't just read into my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the same question I've just asked.
It's part of our discussion.
So you're okay. So you're hosting an investment conference in the fall, and you have...
This is such a bad look for Carney. Every single reporter he's talked to, he's either talking over them, he's snapping at them. He snapped at that other guy from Global or CTV or whatever, and now this lady with Bloomberg.
An economic update next week. I'm wondering if you are looking at cutting corporate taxes, given that's one of the barriers that corporations say stands in the way of investment.
He did it again. Touches his nose, little smile when she said corporate income taxes. You can read this guy's face like a book. He knows full well he's going to have just all the perfect loopholes for Brookfield to take advantage of.
This is a good opportunity to point out that Canada has the lowest marginal effective tax rate on investment in the G7. By what degree? And in fact, effectively in the OECD, but I'll stick with the G7. Canada's marginal effective tax rate on investment is 13%. The United States marginal effective tax rate on investment after the big beautiful bill, quote unquote, is over 17%. So we're more than 4 percentage points through the United States. We are half the G7 average. We have the most competitive tax environment for corporate investment, and I'd like to see that in a Bloomberg story. And you will have it detailed in the update on Tuesday if you want the background.
Last question.
Well, he's demanding that in a Bloomberg story. This guy's so arrogant. I don't doubt Carney's knowledge on corporate income taxes. I mean, he was brought in to Brookfield as a guy who knew how to help Brookfield rip off Canadian taxpayers to the tune of $5.3 billion. And it's ironic, this coming from the NDP. Carney's a smart man. He knew how to help Brookfield in a way that would rip off taxpayers to the tune of $5.276 billion. They owe us money. Does he know how the system works? You bet he does. The reason why he said you're Bloomberg and that he was demanding to see a story come from this, because he used to sit on the board of Bloomberg. I think his arrogance was coming through that he was talking to someone he deemed much lower than him on the ladder of life, however you want to say it. He was chair of board of directors of Bloomberg. He doesn't like that this Bloomberg person is grilling him. So next up, we got a reporter asking about the Build Canada Homes nonsense. Another example here of him talking over the reporter.
Funding. There's also the 2,000 units that you're going to build on federal lands. And that's just on 2 sites. But of course, there's about 24 sites that the federal government owns in the city. And I'm wondering what you're doing to promote development on those sites and how much of a priority it is for you to build there.
Look, it's a fantastic question. It's a fantastic question that occupies the minds of...
So this just goes into nonsense here, but once again, he's clearly very rattled, irritated, the whole Trump situation. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, he seems quite pissed off and quite irritated today and more recently. The main takeaway I took from this press conference is he has no plan to deal with Trump's new tariffs that apply to metal in any product coming from Canada. So buckle up, folks.